Oh no, you don't. He caught my hand in midair. Drawing back the other one, I let it fly. He caught that one, too. Before I knew how, my hands were on his face and I was drawn down towards him. Our lips collided. On the rare occasions that I glanced between the covers of a romance novel, I had chanced upon an expression that seemed to be a favorite with romantic writers: lips melting together. Well, our lips didn't melt. They collided. They collided like a ship and an iceberg. They collided like two stars, one red hot, one icy blue. They collided like two wolves, bent on devouring each other. And so did we. I nearly knocked him over backwards and rammed his head into the desk. He didn't seem to mind, though. He was too busy pulling me down towards him. His hands had found their way to the small of my back. The feel of him there, his fingers skimming over me, holding me close. It was like nothing I had ever felt before. Oh, I had been touched there before, by insolent fellows at some ball or other who didn't know how to keep their hands to themselves. But those touches had only ever made me want to reach for a bucket to puke into. His touch had quite a different effect. It made me just want to touch him back. Maybe not even by punching him. Just touching, softly. What was wrong with me? Help. Slowly, I sank forward until I came to rest on his chest. I was resting against a man's chest, and I didn't want to cringe away in horror. What the bloody heck was wrong with me? This is what you've always worked so hard to avoid, a small voice in my head whispered. Get away. You don't want this. You didn't ever want a man to touch you like this. But the voice was getting smaller and smaller, until I could no more hear the want a man, and all that was left was an echoing touch. Touch, touch. Something touched my face. I jerked back, breaking the kiss, and gasping. His fingers. He had his fingers on my face, stroking my cheeks. Dear God, how could I have ever thought him cold? The tips of his fingers on my face were like torches, sending sparks racing down my spine to somewhere deep, deep inside me, a place I had never known about before. A place that only waited to be kindled. Come. It was an order, but this time one I didn't mind. His fingers grasped my face tightly, pulling it back towards his. I had never seen it this close. His smooth, raven black hair. How had I never noticed how shiny it was? His classical, chiseled features. Beautiful, simply beautiful. And above all, his mouth. His mouth. The word suddenly held a whole new meaning for me. No longer was it just the origin of curt, demanding orders and misogynistic balderdash. It was the source of a touch that was so intimate, so inflammatory, that it was beyond anything I could have imagined. His arms were still around me, holding me tight. His eyes didn't leave mine for a moment. Was this, I wondered, what it was like for Ella when Edmund was holding her? What it was like to be close to a man, to open yourself and let all barriers fall. It was an unearthly thing, in the truest sense of the word. I could even see bright stars dancing at the office ceiling, behind Mr. Ambrose's chiseled face. My head felt strange. What was happening? The fire was slowly burning out. And the stars. The stars were no longer dancing behind Mr. Ambrose. They were also dancing in front of his face. And they were multiplying, obscuring my vision. Mist came, flooding in from the edges of my sight, and I slowly sank into the darkness. From very far away I heard a voice calling out, Miss Linton. Miss Linton. Now, who could that be? I wondered. Mr. Ambrose never calls me miss. Then the darkness swallowed me. A trace of fire brings the winter. When I awoke, I was slumped in the visitor's chair, my head resting on my shoulder. My eyes didn't want to open, but I knew where I was sitting without looking. No one in London except Mr. Rickard Ambrose owned a chair this hard and uncomfortable. A soft groan escaped my mouth. Ah, you are finally awake. The voice was cool, and as distant as Timbuktu. I didn't need to open my eyes to recognize it, either. What happened? I moaned. You went to the bathroom to get your shoes. On the way back you stumbled and passed out. I believe you hit your head. Slowly, memories started coming back. The memories he spoke of came first, but there were faint images of others, too. I had bumped my head. Some part of me did feel as if a bruise was likely to develop, but it wasn't the back of my head. Almost unconsciously, I reached up and touched my lips. They felt unusually warm and swollen. Could one knock oneself out by falling on the mouth? I wasn't sure, and shouldn't I have knocked my teeth out in the process? I felt my jaw. All teeth were still firmly attached. But my lips felt different, somehow. Not really in a bad way. Tingly and hot. If that's what keeling over did to you, maybe I should do it more often. Mustering all my energy, I forced my eyes open. Mr. Ambrose stood over me, looking even more like the statue of some Greek god for the fact that he was towering above me. Any moment I expected him to start throwing thunderbolts. Touching my lips again, I met his gaze. For a moment, something in his eyes flashed, something that was gone so quickly that I had probably imagined it. Did anything happen? I mumbled. Anything else? Not a muscle in his face moved. Other than you falling and nearly cracking your head open on the floor, Mr. Linton. No, I must inform you that if you wish to remain in my employ, you will in the future have to refrain from such effeminate displays of clumsiness. I have no time for them. Do we understand each other? Why yes, sir. Good, then maybe you can finally leave now. I wish to have my office to myself. Your presence here is distracting. I got to my feet. Apparently, the floor still wasn't interested in a peace treaty. It wobbled threateningly under my feet as I made my way to the door. Mr. Ambrose, though, who walked beside me, didn't have any problems, which confirmed my suspicion. He had been in cahoots with the floor all along. They had worked together to do something. Yes, something had happened. But what? If only I could remember. Yet the memory was just out of my reach. Had they collaborated to knock me down? But why would they hit me on the lips to do so? Surely it would have worked better if they had tried the back of my head. Besides, I couldn't believe that Mr. Ambrose had anything to do with my silly accident. The yellow piggies would have warned me if they saw him sneaking up on me. You would have, wouldn't you? I asked the one that was standing in the corner and playing with the long tails of Napoleon's army uniform. It nodded solemnly. What? Mr. Ambrose asked. I wasn't talking to you. Come on, I want to get out of here before the floor tries to eat me. Asterisk tilde asterisk tilde asterisk asterisk tilde asterisk tilde asterisk. The whole way down the stairs Mr. Ambrose kept a tight hold on my elbow for some unfathomable reason. Only when we had arrived in the cavernous entrance hall did he let go of me. But when I started towards the front door, he shook his head. Not that way. But that's the way we came in, sir. Still, it will not be the way we leave. Why not? He stared at me pointedly. Why not, sir? I amended, exasperated. Lord Dalgleish is sure to have this place watched. It is of no matter whether his men saw us enter, but they must not see you leave. Not when your next stop is your family home, from which he might infer your true identity. Have you any idea what Lord Dalgleish would give for the news that I have lowered myself to employing a female as my private secretary? You think he'd be interested? I asked curiously. Interested is too mild a word for it. Come. He led me straight across the hall, past the receptionist's desk and towards a large door at the back of the vast room. Though it was only illuminated by the scant moonlight that filtered in through the narrow windows, the hall was behind us in a matter of seconds. He seemed to know his way around perfectly, and never reduced the tempo of his long, rapid strides. The door where we ended up was large and double-winged, almost as impressive as the entrance. I wondered why one would need such a large door inside a building. The question was answered only a second later when the double door swung open and revealed what lay beyond. Bloody. We stood at the entrance to a large courtyard, surrounded by high, Doric columns, 47, which gave the yard a stark appearance in the cold moonlight. Under a portico at the far end of the yard stood Mr. Ambrose's chaise, the grey beast of a horse already attached to it by an assortment of leather straps the names of which I didn't care to know. A driver already sat waiting for us. Mr. Ambrose, a portly little man with a reddish nose, came hurrying forward, wearing an anxious expression and a uniform-like tailcoat on which several buttons were missing. Mr. Ambrose's night porter, I deduced. Only Mr. Ambrose would be stingy enough not to replace missing buttons on his employees' uniforms. I'm honored, Mr. Ambrose, so very honored. The little man bowed, and then bowed a second time for good measure. So honored that you would come down to give me your orders personally, sir, I can hardly. Yes, you said that when I came down earlier. Mr. Ambrose cut him short. The porter swallowed and froze in the midst of his third bow. It was obvious he had taken the night shift in the hope of never ever coming across his formidable employer, and now his worst nightmares had been realized. Is all ready? The coach is prepared, sir, all is prepared, Mr. Ambrose, sir. I have seen to everything myself. The horse has been watered and fed, the coachman awaits your orders, sir, Mr. Ambrose, sir. Adequate. And where is Mr. Linton's tailcoat? The porter paled. I don't know that it's dry yet, sir. I will have to go and check. Then do so, now. Of course, sir, of course. I shall go immediately. Just you wait, sir, I shall run like the wind, Mr. Ambrose, sir. And he was off, as if the hounds of hell were after him, or maybe even Patsy jabbing him with her parasol. Mr. Ambrose strode over to wait beside the carriage, and I followed him. There was something weighing on my mind. To be honest, there were several things weighing on my mind, all of which were feeling distinctly unpleasant and started giving me a headache. But this particular thing was weighing even weightier than the other weighty weights. I gathered all my strength to speak. Mr. Ambrose. My voice sounded slurred, even to my own ears. Yes, Mr. Linton. I have a question, sir. Indeed. I waited, but he didn't say anything. Then I remembered that I hadn't actually asked the question yet. By Jove, I was a tiny bit confused tonight, wasn't I? I cleared my throat. Are you sure that nothing else happened? Up there in your office? Nothing else but me passing out? He hesitated. I saw his hand tighten around the walking stick that concealed his sword. His lips parted. Here, Mr. Ambrose, sir. Like a fat little ball of lightning, the porter shot around the corner, and I mentally cursed the man and all his descendants to the 7th generation. Or maybe the 8th. Here is the gentleman's tailcoat, dried and cleaned as requested. Although it was my tailcoat he carried, he handed it to Mr. Ambrose, an action that didn't endear him to me any more than his sudden appearance had. I added a few curses for the 9th and 10th generations. They probably more than deserved it, and I was sure my good friend Napoleon would see to it that they were adequately tortured if I asked him. Mr. Ambrose nodded to the man. You're dismissed. Take up your post again. Yes, sir. Immediately, sir. Emitting relief like a beacon did light, the man hurried off, and Mr. Ambrose held out my tailcoat to me. Here. About what I said, I tried to return to the earlier subject. About what happened up there in your office. I'm pretty sure I can remember something about you and me. I didn't get any further than that. Suddenly, I was cut off by a violent hiss. Mr. Ambrose's fingers had clenched into the material of the tailcoat, around a lengthy tear in the black cloth. He stared at the damaged garment with eyes like icicles. Look at this, he told me, his voice matching the coldness of his eyes. Look at this, Mr. Linton. Now. Uncomprehendingly, I stared at the tear in the coat. Yes, I see it, and I must have ripped it somewhere. Maybe on a nail or something like th. That's no tear, he interrupted me with deadly calm. Do you not see that the hole is round? Do you not see the blackened edges of the cloth where it is ripped open? Those are gunpowder stains. My fuzzy brain tried to grasp the meaning of his words. It needn't have bothered. Stepping so close to me that our faces were almost touching and I could see the darkness of his eyes, Mr. Ambrose told me. A bullet grazed you and ripped your coat open. Another inch and it would have buried itself in your flesh. The way he said your flesh sent shivers down my back. Shivers of fear, anger and something else I couldn't quite grasp. He wasn't shivering, though. He was colder and harder than I had ever seen him. You could have died. He seemed to be speaking to nobody in particular. His icy eyes were staring right through me. You really could have died. They were looking so far into the distance, those eyes of his, as if he was seeing some other world, another reality altogether. Suddenly, they refocused on me again, and he thrust the tailcoat into my arms. Here, let it be a reminder, Mr. Linton. I staggered back, clutching the coat in my arms. A reminder of what? His hands, empty of cloth now, once again curled tightly around the handle of his hidden sword. A reminder to never, ever cease to be careful. He turned in the direction of the chaise and started towards it. You're right, I swallowed. Somewhere on the edge of my consciousness was hovering the knowledge that a piece of lead could have buried itself in me tonight. But my mind was so exhausted, it wasn't quite ready to let that realization in. Not yet. Hurriedly, I started to follow him. Now, about that thing in your office. I could swear that you. Nothing happened in the office. His voice cut through the air like a blade of ice. Without looking back at me, he swung himself into the carriage and slammed the door shut behind him. You fell, you hit your head, no more. Nothing happened. Nothing at all. Let's go. Asterisk tilde asterisk tilde asterisk asterisk tilde asterisk tilde asterisk nothing happened. Nothing at all. Those were the last words he had spoken to me that night. Leaning out of the chaise, he had flung a command at the porter, who'd hastily opened the large outer gate of the backyard. I had yanked open the door on my side and clambered in. The driver hadn't needed prompting after that. He appeared to be well familiar with Mr. Ambrose's distaste for wasted time. Gee up. The cry of the coachman was followed by the crack of the whip. Seconds later, the coach lurched forward and we were rattling over the cobblestones, out under the massive archway, into the street. The blurry shapes of gas lanterns rushed past us like ghosts on their way to the underworld. I wondered if any of them could be bothered to stop and haunt us, maybe rattle their chains for a few minutes or something like that. Mr. Ambrose certainly looked like he could use the company. He was staring out of his window, his face turned away from me. He was even more cold and taciturn than usual. What was the matter, Mr. Ambrose? Silence. Mr. Ambrose, sir. More silence. Really quite extraordinarily silent silence. But then, why should that surprise me? This was Mr. Ambrose I was trying to talk to, after all. Still, for some reason I had expected him to be more talkative. I had expected him to want to talk about something. Something important. The memory hovered on the edge of my consciousness. Once more, I reached up and touched my lips. In his icy, silent corner I saw Mr. Ambrose shift, almost imperceptibly. Had we? No, I just couldn't remember. The streets rushed past as if in a dream. The houses shrank, the streets narrowed. No more palatial mansions and memorable marble facades. We were now driving past honest middle-class homes, the comfortable little brick houses of greengrocers, shoemakers and probably also piano tuners and their sons who had illicit affairs with young blonde ladies. Oh gosh, I mumbled. I almost forgot about them. My gaze wandered to Napoleon, who was sitting between me and the ice-cold statue in the corner that was Mr. Ambrose. You couldn't take care of that for me, could you? The Emperor shook his head somberly. I sighed. I thought so. Blast. You're an abominable slacker. You know that, don't you? Mr. Ambrose slowly turned his head towards me. His gaze cut into me like a deep frozen razor. I didn't mean you, I clarified. I was talking to Napoleon. Mr. Ambrose turned his head slowly away from me again. He didn't speak. Where to exactly, sir? Called the coachman from the box. It seemed Mr. Ambrose hadn't given him an exact address. I perked up. Surely, now he had to open that stubbornly silent mouth of his. Wrong. He sat in the corner, staring silently out of the window, just as before. Sir, I ain't got no idea where to go. Nothing but perfect silence came from the granite monument at the window. Raising my hand, I knocked against the roof of the chaise. Driver. He turned around to face me. Yes, sir. A strange feeling ran through me at having somebody else call me, sir, the same hated respectful address I had been forced to give Mr. Ambrose day after day, week after week. I felt a surge of power rush through me at hearing the word. Do you know St. James's Square? I yelled over the rushing wind. Yes. Take us there. I can find my way from there. Yes, sir. He turned towards the street again, and I settled back into the seat, a contented smile on my face. Napoleon nodded at me, approvingly. Not long after, the chaise began to slow down, and we then came to a halt. Looking out of the window, I saw the familiar 3- and 4-story houses around St. James's Square, looming up out of the darkness. Only in a few windows was light still visible. I turned to Mr. Ambrose. Well, I guess that was it, then, I mumbled. Silence. I don't suppose you want to congratulate me on my excellent work. You know, finding the place where the file is for you, and all that. More silence. That's what I thought. Sighing, I pushed the door open and clambered out of the carriage. I was careful when I set my foot on the cobblestones of the square. St. James's was familiar, a friend, completely unlike the floor in Mr. Ambrose's office. Still, you never knew. Tonight, all flat surfaces seemed to have it in for me. I already wanted to walk away, but then I hesitated one final time. Mr. Ambrose. Silence. Good night, see. Driver, he cut me off. Get moving. Behind me, the whip cracked, the grey horse whinnied. I jumped out of the way, just in time to avoid getting sprayed by the chaise as it drove through a puddle. It raced across the empty square and out of sight as it plunged into the darkness of nocturnal London. Asterisk tilde asterisk tilde asterisk asterisk tilde asterisk tilde asterisk said darkness of nocturnal London proved a not inconsiderable hindrance in reaching my uncle's house. It wasn't far away, of course. Most of the streets were lit by gas lanterns and I knew the area well, but I had never considered how different things might look at night. For example, there were all those pretty lights dancing in the air around me. Were they there every night? If so, I should be out this late more often. London seemed much more interesting at nighttime. There was a strange pounding in my ears, getting louder as I stumbled forward. It was probably Napoleon and a regiment of cavalry, riding off to conquer the world. Oh well, I wished him luck with all my heart. I probably had to abandon that particular project. I felt so tired. Conquering all the world seemed too exhausting an idea. Maybe you could take over just half the world. Or only Eurasia. Yes, that sounded acceptable. But the rest would have to wait until tomorrow. Finally, I found my way to the little wooden door in the wall surrounding my uncle's back garden. After some groping around in my pockets, I managed to unearth the key and insert it into the one of the 3 fuzzy-looking locks that proved most substantial. Safe inside the garden, out of sight of prying eyes, I slipped into the shed and changed my clothes. Taking the garden ladder with me, I approached the window, gazing up at the mountainous height I had to climb. I would climb this peak. And if I was going to perish like all the brave explorers before me, who had boldly ventured where no man, or woman, had gone before, then so be it. I had been planning on conquering the world, after all. Climbing a ladder would be easy. Well, it didn't turn out to be, really, but I managed to hit the first rung with my foot after only 3 failed attempts. After that, things got a bit simpler. I climbed higher and higher until suddenly, there loomed an opening before me. What was this again? Your window, you idiot. Oh yes, quite right. I wanted to climb through the window into my room. That was why I was up here in the first place. Funny how that had almost slipped my mind. Through the window, I could see Ella. She was sitting in bed. In my bed, to be precise, anxiously twisting the sheet on my empty mattress between the fingers of her small, ivory hands and staring down at my rumpled pillow. Lil, she sighed, again and again. Oh Lil. Strange, why was she trying to talk to me, when from what she knew, I wasn't even there? And why was she up in the middle of the night? She should be in bed, recuperating from an evening of tiring love affairs at the garden fence. But there she was, sitting, awake, and for some reason, apparently quite upset, too. Taking the last few rungs, I swung my leg over the windowsill. When Ella heard a sound coming from the window, she sprang up and whirled around, clutching her hands to her chest. Her mouth opened to scream as she saw a sinister figure climbing in through her bedroom window. The sinister figure, that is to say I, sprang forward and clamped a hand over her mouth. Be quiet, silly, it's no burglar, only me, I hissed into her ear. If you scream, you'll chase the little yellow piggies away. Her whole body relaxed in my arms. MMPF, MGMPF, NMMMPF. I suppose that means, hello, Lily, how nice to see you. MMMPF. I see, it's nice to see you, too. If I let you go, do you promise not to scream? YMPF. Seeing as that was the closest approximation to a yes I was likely to receive, I took my hand from her mouth. She turned to face me, grabbing me by the shoulders. Her eyes were large and moist with panic. Dear God, Lily, where have you been? I was expecting you to come home hours ago, and I waited and waited, but you never arrived. I've had to tell the most dreadful, fiendish lies to explain your absence to Aunt. Where have you been? A small laugh escaped me. I was with the little yellow piggies. Alexander was there, too. Little yellow, what, and who is Alexander? Alexander the Great, haven't you heard of him? Spiffing chap, absolutely spiffing. Ella sniffed. Lily, what is that smell? Smell, I don't smell anything, what do you mean? That smell, it smells like the tables at balls where the drinks for gentlemen are served. Her voice dwindled. Slowly, the color drained from her face. Lil, no, you can't have. Lil. I smiled broadly. She remembered my name. It was so nice that someone did. Mr. Ambrose never called me by my first name, let alone a sweet nickname like Lil. Yes, my delightful, dear little sister. Lil, have you? She lowered her voice until it was only a hushed whisper, deserving of a dark and dingy crypt, where human sacrifices were conducted by some strange oriental cult. Have you been drinking? I pondered the question carefully. Yes, I finally decided, nodding to emphasize the point. I have. In fact, I have it on the reliable authority of a professional drunkard that I have emptied the entire River Thames. I must confess, I had no idea my belly could contain that much liquid. Lil, a moment later, I was in Ella's arms and she was rocking me from side to side as if I were a small child who needed comforting. Oh my dear sister, tell me, who is the man who has done this to you, the rake who has led you off the path of virtue and intoxicated you? I will help you, I promise. She continued to rock me like a baby, making cooing noises all the time. By Jove, I had no idea she felt so strongly about me. That was gratifying, but I was also slightly irked by the fact that she thought I needed a man to lead me astray. I was perfectly capable of straying from the path of virtue on my own, thank you very much. Don't be afraid, Lil. I will go to him, make him leave you alone. He will never bother you again, I promise. There was a lump in my throat. Oh dear God, was this really happening? My little sister Ella, sweet, innocent, shy little Ella was willing to face down a dastardly rake for my sake. She had hidden emergency reserves of courage that she had tapped now, for my sake, to protect me from the villain that was dragging me into a cesspool of iniquity. Never mind that the villain only existed in her imagination. This was touching. She truly was the best sister one could wish for. Yes, she is, but maybe she could stop this infernal rocking. Very true. The motion made me feel woozy all over again, and once more, stars started dancing in front of my eyes. Ella's voice seemed to be coming from a distance now. Who is he? Oh Lil, please tell me. Who is the man? I know it may be hard for you to concentrate right now, but you really need to tell me. Can you tell me anything? What he looks like? His name? Napoleon. Napoleon. Dear Lord, he is a Frenchman. No wonder you're in such a state. Did he touch you? Did he hurt you? Lil, you poor thing. Do you remember his last name? Bonaparte, I mumbled, gazing at the stars dancing across my bedroom ceiling. You know, the Emperor. The little chap with the funny hat and the hand glued to the inside of his jacket. Merciful God, Lil, you're hallucinating. I'm not, I protested. He was there. He was. Ask the little piggies if you don't believe me. Lil. My head slumped to the side. The world around me shrank until all I could see was Ella's anxious face. Lil, stay with me. Now there was only the anxious tip of her anxious nose, surrounded by darkness. Lil. And then there was nothing. Unreal dream of a really wonderful nightmare. I woke in a torture chamber that bore significant resemblance to my bedroom. It couldn't really be my bedroom, though. In my bedroom, my head was never filled with such agonizing pain, nor did my tongue dare to feel so much like an inflated badger's tail in my private sanctum. This was a torture chamber. Now, I only had to wait for the torturers to arrive, and the fun could begin. I waited. And waited. And waited a little longer. The badger who had substituted his tail for my tongue wiggled his behind, and I groaned as pain lanced through my head. Desperately, I tried to think of any ways I had ever learned to make badger tails vanish from one's mouth. None came to mind. I waited some more. Slowly, the piercing pain in my head began to recede a little. As it did, memories of the previous night started to trickle back into my consciousness. The drive to the East End. Dear me, had I really visited that horrible part of the city? It seemed so. The images were there all right, if a little bit jumbled. The dirty pub, the old sailor, the fight, by Jove, a real gunfight. Pity I didn't have a nice, daring scar to show for it that would put any suitors off for the rest of my life. The drive back to Empire House in the dark. The office. The kiss. My mind froze in mid-thought. Wait just a minute. The kiss. I sat bolt upright, and regretted it immediately as a searing surge of pain shot through my skull. Clamping both hands on my eyes in an attempt to shut out the world, I pushed the pain aside and grasped desperately for the vague images of last night. No, dear God, no. My hands slipped from my eyes, over my face, down to my parted lips. I was sure they had to be hideously swollen, about twice their normal size. Nothing less than such a gruesome disfigurement would do as a punishment for forsaking all my feminist principles and giving myself, even if just for a moment, willingly over to a man. Shivering, I remembered Mr. Ambrose's mouth on me. The memory was demanding and gentle, cold and fierce all at the same time. It had been like nothing I had ever felt before. In a totally disgusting way, of course, I reminded myself. As if having Mr. Ambrose kiss me could ever excite any feelings other than horror in me. It really had been horrifically horribly terrible, the way his lips had caressed mine, had asked me to open up, to give myself to him and just for a moment forget my aims, my dreams, the world and everything else for the sake of a hot feeling in the pit of my stomach that had rapidly grown into a firestorm. His arms around me had been like iron vices, his eyes dark as the deepest wells, and full of secrets I couldn't hope to fathom. The fire that spread through my body seemed to be drawn to them, to him, out of my body into his, heating us and molding us together in a silent cyclone of feelings. I realized I was staring dreamily off into the distance, and hurriedly snapped my thoughts back on the here and now, where they belonged. As you said before, I reminded myself once more. Frightfully disgusting and horribly terrible. That's what it was like. Definitely. Absolutely. My hands were clenching the sheets in a steely grip, and only now did I realize that they were shaking. How could I have let myself go like this? How could I have let go of every cherished principle of female independence for the sake of a few seconds of hot, immensely blissful? No, not blissful, I corrected myself hurriedly. Awful. Awful. Understood. Awful. How could I have forgotten myself like this, just for a few seconds of immensely awful kissing in the arms of a man? Not just any man, mind, but Mr. Rickard Ambrose. The man who had humiliated me, who had made my life hell for the past few weeks, the man who was determined to get rid of me. But, wasn't he also the man who had let me stay because he had given his word, even though he didn't like it? The man who had given me a job when nobody else would have. The man who had brought adventure and independence into my life. The man whose kiss roused feelings in me that had never, ever before. No, stop it. I had to stop right there. If I sank into those memories again, I would start thinking thoughts I wouldn't like. Or rather would like too damn much. And would despise. And desire. Oh. This was all so confusing. Grabbing the pillow on the bed that most resembled Mr. Ambrose's head, I drew back my arm and gave it a good right hook. Unfortunately, the pillow didn't have a great resemblance to the original. I knew, because if it hadn't been before last night, now his chiseled face was branded into my mind forever. No surprise, considering the lengthy opportunity I had had to study it at close quarters. Once more, the scene from last night flashed in front of my eyes, he swooping down towards me, pressing his lips on mine, hard, demanding, so incredibly. Blast him.